Hi everyone, my name is Holly Clark and I am the Manager of Education Partnerships here for the CPP Labs team. And what you're going to see today is a brief demo of how to access and use our Classrooms feature on the VitaNavis platform. So to access that, you're going to go to your school's branded page and log in. And from there across the top, if you have administration rights, you're going to see the option for administration and click on that. And when you get to that, you're going to see several different items across the side panel. We're going to go through today how to create classrooms, how to create access codes for those classrooms, and then we're going to look at adding and removing students as well as those aggregate views and specific cohorts of students. So the first thing we're going to look at is actually creating a classroom. And an instance where you would want to create a classroom is, this can be varied. Let's say, for instance, you're an advisor or a counselor and you want to put a specific set of students that you advise or counsel into a group so that you don't have to comb through the entire set of data that your university or college has access to in order to find those students. This can also give you options for comparing your students' general occupational themes, their personal learning styles, their basic interest scales. This might be something that faculty want to use as well, especially with that personal learning style piece. If they're looking at how their students learn and how to best reach their learners in terms of their learning styles, that would be another option for creating a classroom. So lots of different options for that, but you do that by going to, of course, create classroom, and the required field here is the name of that classroom. You're not required to put a description. You can, that's just a personal preference. If several of your classes or sections have similar names and you want to be able to differentiate those, feel free to put something there. You hit submit. And from there, the next thing you want to do is to create an access code for that classroom. And I always liken this to Google Classroom. So if you're familiar with the way Google Classroom works, you can give students a set of numbers and letters that's an access code for them to input into Google Classroom and easily join your classroom without you having to manually go in and enter each of those students. So it makes it much more seamless for you as the administrator. This process is very similar here. So the first thing you're going to do is create a new access code. And if you'll notice, you have a red asterisk here. So it is required to choose a parent access code. Don't let that intimidate you. Those are all going to be listed here. It really doesn't matter which one you choose. I'm going to use our demo site just to keep it simple for you, but you can select one of those. And from there, you can actually label it the way that you want to label it. So just to keep it easy, I'm going to use the same nomenclature that I used for the classroom, but you may have some different naming tendencies that you want to use there. That's fine. It's your personal preference. And again, you're welcome to put a description here as well. And once you create that, you're going to see here that you can do several different things with it. You could copy it, and let's say that you want to email that or possibly paste it on your classroom page or something on Canvas for your students to be able to access easily. That option is there. You can also embed it if you wanted to do that. So several different options there, but you can access those at any time by going to access code list. If we were to create more access codes, we would go through that same process that we just did, and all of those would be listed here. And I would always have the ability to go through and access those as I needed them to be able to share those with my students. So once we've created the classroom and we have added students to that classroom through that access code list, let's say that you do want to manually add a student or delete a student, remove a student from a classroom, you can do that here. So you've got a nice little panel here where the students who are in your classroom, and in this case, no one's in there yet because I haven't pushed out that access code to them. I can go to the not in classroom or the all, either one. And from here, I can easily just put the add button for any students that I want to add to that classroom. And if I want to remove them, I'll do the opposite. I just hit remove. It's going to verify that I wanted to do that. and go from there. So again, I went to that by going to student list and then classroom or not in classroom, and then add or remove on the side. Now you have some other features here that you might want to access, especially when you're dealing with a large set of data. You're welcome to search by student name in order to pull up the students who are within your classroom and add and remove them the same way that we just did. So let's say that, all of your incoming freshmen took the Super Strong assessment and you want to be able to add 100 of them to your classroom. You could either give them that access code list or you could search for them here. The student list is also going to show up in search records. So if you ever want to go through and access a particular student, that's always going to be on the search record page. Anyone who is a part of your particular institution will be listed here. So just to differentiate between, this is where all of your students will be found, and that classroom feature would be where you access those specific students that you want to have access to easily and readily. So within that student list, when I've gone through and added in my students, I can see several different things. I can click on them individually, and as you probably saw during your onboarding or possibly one of our webinars, this is where you see a specific student's individual VitaNavis Super Strong results. So from here, I can see the student's interest in careers, those general occupational themes, as well as her personal learning styles and program matches in order to have those guided counseling or advising sessions with her. I also have the ability to add a note here. So if I refer this specific student, let's say to student support services, I can save that here. This is a good time to point out that all of the information here on the administrative side is viewable for administrators only. This is not something that students would see. So the next time that, say, Maggie and I have a counseling session, I'm able to access the notes that I've put in here. I could print her results if I wanted to, several different options here. So if I go back to my student list, if we want to look at what this looks like from an aggregate view, I can click across the other options that we haven't talked about yet. So first are going to be those general occupational themes, or RIASEC, as you may more commonly know them. The different, and again, there's only 2 students here, so this would look a little bit different if you had an entire class or, say, an entire meta major or college represented here. But I can look at how those RIASEC results shape up for each of those students, and I can click on a specific letter in order to filter and see where those actually showed up. So if I want to see a specific cohort of students, all I have to do is click on that particular code. I can do the same thing on a more granular level here. So if I want to see more of what those basic interest skills are, so what are my students most interested in within those occupational themes, I can see that here. So this gives you a nice visual as to how your students are testing in terms of their interest. This would be a great time to do some comparison possibly for your students who are within your meta majors or colleges in order to make sure your students are on the right path. You can also even, as maybe a faculty member for your instructional effectiveness or catering to your students' learning styles, you can click on personal styles here in order to see how your students best prefer to learn. So from their work style, their learning environment, their leadership style, risk-taking, and team orientation, those are all going to be represented here. And just as we saw within the career themes and career interests, if I want to see a specific cohort of students, I can click on the represented graphic and see who falls into that category. We mentioned using this, say, as a faculty member. I'm a former educator myself, and it turns out that I prefer more of an academic environment. I like lectures, I like to read in order to learn, but most students don't really prefer to learn that way. And so it wasn't until I, really got a little bit more intensive with my students' learning styles and started catering more to how they learn that I really found more of that effectiveness as a teacher. So do want to point that out here. There are several different options that you can access with those personal learning styles. So during your onboarding, you probably looked at several other options here. We can get a little bit more intensive if you have specific questions moving forward. So if you want to do any kind of meta major naming, that is an option here. If you want to do any program mapping, you have the option to customize those moving forward. That's one of our newest features. But we can talk more about that if that's a specific question that you have. For today's purposes of the video, we just really wanted you to get comfortable with that classroom feature. So if you have any questions moving forward, our team is always ready and willing to help. Again, my name is Holly Clark, and my email is hclark, HCLARK at cpp.com. You're welcome to reach out to me at any time if you have questions about classrooms or otherwise. We value our partnership with you, and we thank you for your interest in serving your students. Have a great day.